Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today we're going to go ahead and continue our ranking of UCLA's most important games this season. Last episode, we went ahead and talked about the first one, which was number 12, and we talked about New Mexico, kind of just because they were a non-conference opponent and easily UCLA's maybe, I don't want to say worst, but like UCLA's worst opponent on the schedule. And this next rating is kind of along the same lines, just being that it's non-conference, but it's definitely not one of their worst opponents at all by any means. So yeah, we're going to get right into it, detail why I ranked them the way I did, and then we're going to go ahead and get into what some analysts are saying about UCLA's opponents moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into number 12, and it's going to be their UCLA's Week 2 matchup against UNLV. Now, I did say it was along the same lines as New Mexico, and that is because it is a non-conference opponent. By all means, every non-conference game is still of supreme importance, but as I noted last episode, and as I kind of prefaced when I started this series, is that every game is important for UCLA's schedule, especially if you're sitting in the boat that they're sitting in. But there are some games that hold a little bit more weight than others, and I do think that 10 other games hold more weight than this UCLA game. Than this UNLV game. But with that being said, I went ahead and selected UNLV because, hold up, my computer is messing up. I went ahead and selected UNLV because, this game, I think, especially in this new college landscape, this new college football landscape, I think conference games are definitely more important than non-conference games. When you're in UCLA's seat, I think you do want to win every game you can, just so you can get into that bowl game. I think a bowl game is, the floor for UCLA and their goals this season. But when it comes to UNLV, it's kind of the same as New Mexico because, you do want to win this game, and this game can really go a long way towards starting really good on the season before going into conference play. But I think you might be favored. I don't think UCLA will be favored in this game, but it'll be another litmus test, which is why it is pretty important. I think we should talk about a little bit more about why it is important, as opposed to why it's not as important. But it is important because it is a litmus test, just like Week 1 is the game prior. UNLV received votes for the preseason top 25. UCLA didn't. So it's going to be a good litmus test. I think UCLA is going to be favored, but the Rebels do have Dan Mullen, and they could be pretty scrappy, could be pretty feisty, and next thing you know, UCLA might be having their back against the wall in this game. But similar to this New Mexico game, winning this game could really increase your chances of starting the season 4-0 before hitting to Penn State in Week 6, I think. Penn State plays in Week 6, I think. But anyways, if you upset Utah, you're not going to be favored against Utah. But if you upset Utah, and then you play against UNLV and beat them, then you have a sort of a cakewalk against New Mexico, and then you start conference play against Northwestern, and you're going to be heavy favorites against Northwestern. Northwestern's one of the worst teams in the conference. That's an easy 4-0 start. You go to you go to Penn State, presumably you lose that one, and then you have Michigan State and then Maryland right after that. So I'm not gonna predict that they are gonna do it, but UCLA has a pretty good path at starting 6-1 this season. But this Utah and UNLV, I think, are the biggest teams that are gonna stand in the way of that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what ESPN's Bill Connolly had to say about UNLV as he previewed them this season. I'm doing this for every single team on this schedule, or on this series, but UCLA's schedule. Bill Connolly kind of did an overview of the Mountain West. And wait, are they in the Mountain West? Yeah. Did an overview of the Mountain West, and he talked about the Rebels. So I'm just going to go ahead and read what he had to say about them. After an almost complete roster teardown, the second in 3 years, UNLV could be just about anything in 2025. If Mullen and company can generate some immediate traction and upside, this one could easily be within reach for the Rebels. One way or another, we'll learn what we need to know about the Rebels pretty quickly. While Deion Sanders earned most of the publicity 2 years ago when he came to Colorado and flipped almost the entire roster in a single offseason, Barry Odom basically did the same thing at UNLV and with better immediate results. It took a year for CU to generate any real progress, but Odom's Rebels immediately surged from 5-7 to 9-4 in 2023, then fielded what was, per SP Plus, their best team ever in 2024. In 28 years before Odom's arrival, UNLV had averaged a dire 3.3 wins per season, with 13 years at 2 or fewer wins and only 3 at 6 or more. Then the Rebels won 20 in 2 years under Odom. Now he's at Purdue. When you overachieve dramatically compared to your historic norm, and then lose the head coach who engineered said overachievement, that's usually an ironclad guarantee of immediate regression. But with transfers and immediate rebuilds becoming more of the norm, history might mean a little bit less than it used to. UNLV replaced Odom with just about the most proven coach available. In 13 seasons at Mississippi State and Florida, Dan Mullen won at least 8 games 8 times with 6 SP Plus top 15 finishes. And he'll oversee a roster loaded with former blue chippers and or power conference signees. By my count, there are 16 blue chippers on the roster, and almost one of them have played with each other before. It's easy to see how this all comes together beautifully, especially on offense, where Mullen teams have almost always been solid, and Mullen hired an intriguing young coordinator in Corey Dennis. But this is also a giant chemistry experiment that could go awry in pretty obvious ways. The uncertainty makes UNLV one of the country's more intriguing teams. It also makes them pretty hard to project with confidence. So, UNLV, basically what you can glean from that is that UNLV is a pretty big mystery, but he did say that they're going to see early on what type of team they are, and I'm not too sure who they play in week 1. Let's go ahead and check that out. But they just might figure out what type of team they are against UCLA, because I think that'll be a pretty good... Yeah, so they play Idaho State. They play an FCS team week 1. And then they have UCLA the very next... Oh, I think they play in week 0. Yeah, they play in week 0, and then they play against UCLA week 2. So UNLV just might figure out exactly who they are against UCLA, which is why this is a pretty important game for the Bruins. So that was number 11. Next up, we're going to have number 10. And we'll see who it is. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.